With the successor to the Nintendo Switch finally set to hit store shelves sometime next year, it's time to start thinking about the next entries for some of Nintendo's biggest franchises. And while I'm absolutely foaming at the mouth for a potential Mario Odyssey sequel or the next mainline Pokemon game, I think my most anticipated Switch 2 title might just be the successor to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Part of this is due to the fact that the Super Smash Bros. Series is very near and dear to my heart. As a kid, me and my friends would play the original N64 title endlessly, and the series has been a mainstay in my life ever since. To this day, it remains the only fighting game I've ever actually been good at, but more so than that, it's given me countless fantastic memories over the years. I remember winning a tournament in high school where I had an absolute blast, but also learned that the Smash players don't wear deodorant stereotype is unfortunately well earned. I remember my roommate in college also being a diehard fan, and us staying up all night long going at it 1v1 with irresponsible amounts of money at stake. And I also remember being in New York with my then girlfriend when the Everyone Is Here Smash Ultimate presentation happened, and having to put our plans on hold so I could sit on a bench in Central Park and bask in the glory that was that trailer. We broke up shortly after that trip. Anyway, all this is to say that I'm extremely invested in the future of this series, so I wanted to make a video talking about what that future might look like. Because beyond my love and passion for the Smash games, I think this is a pretty interesting discussion. After all, the future of Smash is a lot less obvious than, say, the future of 3D Mario. A Super Mario Odyssey 2 seems like a slam dunk for Nintendo, but the path forward for Smash is a little bit murkier. So let's talk about what that path might look like, and what I, a diehard Smash fan, wants it to look like. The obvious starting point for this conversation is a simple yet challenging question. How does the Super Smash Bros. Series top its last entry? The Smash Bros. Games have always been massive deals and huge titles stuffed full of content, but Smash Ultimate took things to an unprecedented level. Ultimate features over 100 stages and 89 playable characters. 89! I know this is all common knowledge and the awe of this massive roster has probably worn off for most people, but it still blows my mind when I say it out loud. To think how far this series has come from the original N64 title that featured 12 characters, well, it's pretty incredible stuff. Especially when you start to think about the lunacy of some of these characters. Minecraft Steve, Solid Snake, Sora? Hell, even just having Sonic in the game would have blown most of our minds back in the early days of the series. But Ultimate made the unthinkable happen, and as fun as it is to play with almost 90 different characters in Smash, it leaves the next game in the series with the unenviable task of trying to top that. How the hell do you top that? Well, there are two possible approaches Nintendo could take here. The first being that, well, you don't try to top it. Rather than go even bigger than Ultimate, the next game could be a bit of a reboot for the series. A stripped down version that reduces the character and stage numbers dramatically, but also adds a bit more content and redesigns some of the series' core characters from the ground up. While I'm not sure if this is necessarily the best approach, I do think there would be a lot of benefits here. For one, as fantastic as Smash Ultimate is, it's clear that the game kinda blew its load on the staggering roster size and other areas of the game suffered. This isn't necessarily a complaint. I think most people would prefer a massive roster over a deep story mode, but it was still a bit of a bummer to have such a lackluster single player option in Ultimate when we've seen what the series is capable of with offerings such as Brawl's Subspace Emissary. A stripped down version of Smash could allow the team to really flesh out the game's single player offerings, potentially providing a mode with legitimate story content, fully voiced cutscenes, and various gameplay mechanics. This is undoubtedly a huge point for the reboot approach. And I know the lack of a good story mode in Ultimate is one of the most common complaints that people have, but for me, I was more disappointed in the game's lack of trophies. Trophies have been a staple in the Smash series since Melee, and even though they might not be as important as a good story mode, I have very fond memories of scrolling through my Melee trophy collection as a kid, reading the lengthy descriptions for each one, and learning all sorts of deep Nintendo lore that I never would have discovered otherwise. Remember how you could hold X or Y in Melee when entering the trophy screen, and it would organize your trophies in different formations? For whatever reason, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world as a kid. I might be in the minority, but I absolutely loved the trophy feature in the past, and was really bummed when that was cut in Smash Ultimate. I get why it had to happen though. The Smash games just keep getting bigger and bigger, and spending that much time on a collectible system probably didn't make much sense anymore. I mean, they were writing paragraphs for a lot of those trophies, and translating that to multiple different languages was probably far more of a headache than it was worth. But if a stripped down Smash could bring features like trophies back, well, that's another point for the reboot approach in my book. And finally, I think that maybe the biggest benefit for a Smash reboot would be that it would allow Nintendo to essentially rebuild a lot of the Smash roster from the ground up. Nintendo staples like Mario, Link, Samus, and Fox have been in every Smash game ever, and will continue to be in every Smash game for the rest of the time, no matter how stripped down the rosters become. The issue here is that despite some tweaks and modernizations, these characters' movesets have essentially remained the same since the very first Smash title. Which makes sense. When you're adding a billion new characters to Ultimate, you probably aren't going to have time to build a new Mario moveset from scratch. You probably have no choice but to heavily recycle and borrow from previous games so you can focus on all the new characters. But come on, Mario still has FLUDD in Smash Ultimate, a character that hasn't been seen outside of Smash in generations, and one that you think Nintendo might want to forget. It's long past due for characters like Mario and Link to be rebuilt and have movesets that more accurately reflect their modern games. These days, it would make infinitely more sense for Mario to have a moveset that utilizes Cappy rather than FLUDD. This, in my opinion, would be one of the biggest benefits to Nintendo rebooting the series. But then of course there's option B for the next Smash game, and that's more or less just port Ultimate to the Switch 2 and add a few things here and there, aka the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe approach. And despite all of the benefits that a Smash reboot could provide, I ultimately think that this is the route Nintendo probably wants to go. Despite all the aforementioned benefits, when it comes down to it, we really are simple creatures at heart. We like big numbers. We were very happy with an 89 character roster in Smash Ultimate, and if the next Smash game all of a sudden only has, say, 30 characters instead, well, I think that's going to be a tough sell for a lot of people, no matter how many new features or modes Nintendo adds. Nintendo might have also backed themselves into a corner on this one, considering that they've already laid out the template for this sort of thing with Mario Kart. For those who aren't aware, and I realize this probably applies to like 4 people since Mario Kart 8 has sold 1 billion copies, but rather than make a new Mario Kart game for the Switch, Nintendo just ported over the most recent installment in the series, added some features and characters, and slapped the word Deluxe on it. They also later added a massive DLC expansion, making Mario Kart 8 Deluxe the biggest Mario Kart game by far. So if Nintendo can do it with Mario Kart, then why can't they do it with Smash and give us a Smash Ultimate Deluxe? Or a Smash Ultimate Ultimate? Well, unfortunately, it's a little bit more complicated in this instance. For one, Smash Ultimate was already a bigger game than the base version of Mario Kart 8 ever was. Smash Ultimate already feels like a deluxe version in itself. And while theoretically Nintendo could make it bigger and add even more characters and stages, the larger issue lies within the licensing of said characters. One of the biggest draws of Smash Ultimate is its huge staple of third-party characters. I mean, did you see how people reacted to Sora's reveal trailer? People lost their damn minds. And while that huge staple of third-party characters is one of Smash Ultimate's greatest feats, it also might be one of its most significant roadblocks when it comes to making an enhanced version of the game. I'm not by any means an expert on this stuff, but my understanding of the situation is that Nintendo would be forced to renegotiate deals for each third-party character in the game if they were to release a new version of the title. I can't imagine this being too hard in some cases. I'm not sure Capcom even realizes they own Mega Man anymore, so you could probably just sneak him in for free, but other cases would probably be much more difficult. I know the partial Disney ownership of Sora was probably not fun to deal with in Smash Ultimate negotiations, and I can imagine Nintendo not being too keen on taking that headache on for a second time. Beyond the legal issues though, just how much bigger can Smash Ultimate get? Obviously there are still plenty of other iconic video game characters that could be tapped in, especially since third-party characters are so heavily featured now. But could Smash really have a roster with more than 100 characters? Balancing a fighting game with 89 characters was most likely already a hugely daunting task for the team. I imagine it would continue to only get tougher with each additional character added. All this is to say that the Super Smash Bros. Team is in a pretty tough position when it comes to the next installment in the series. So what do I think they should do? Well, I guess the dream scenario for me is that somehow they are able to create a Smash Ultimate Deluxe version that retains all of the base game's characters and content, all while adding a meaty new story mode and a couple more characters and stages on top of that. However, I also realize that what I'm asking for would be one of the biggest video games of all time and might simply be too massive of an undertaking. If that is the case, then maybe it really is time to reboot the series. A smaller roster would hurt for sure, but if Nintendo added significant story content, more game modes, and overhauled the game's online play, bringing it more in line with other modern fighting games, well, people would probably eventually get over it and come around. It might never sell as much as Ultimate, but if it truly was a quality package, I think that the fanbase would eventually come to embrace it. One thing is for sure though, whenever Nintendo does drop the trailer for the next installment in the Super Smash Bros. Series, it is going to be fascinating to see what approach they take. And man, oh man, are people going to have some opinions. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you team reboot or team remake? And as always, thanks for watching.